our customers or our clients feel entitled to certain things. But see, if we really have it at the back of our mind that we are there because of them, we would not really see it that way. We will have that notion at the back of our mind that we really have to serve them, okay, in all that we can, with all our strength and with all that we have. Now, talking about the principles of excellent customer service. For us to be able to provide excellent customer service in facility management, we need to adhere to several key principles. And some of the principles we need to adhere to includes responsiveness, reliability, empathy, proactivity, and feedback. I mentioned that earlier. We need to really understand that these things matter. Now, for us to be excellent customer service people, we need to do ordinary things in an extraordinary way. We need to go beyond what is expected. Okay, when we promise our client that we'll do certain things, it's better we under promise and over deliver instead of over promising and under delivering. So this is really important. We need to be our best with every of our customers. We shouldn't segregate our customers. We shouldn't say, oh, I'll serve this better, and then the other one can, we need to really take our customers seriously. We shouldn't have preferential treatment, give our customers preferential treatment. We need to also surprise ourselves with how much we can do. Sometimes we underestimate ourselves. We feel we can't really do much. But when we push ourselves, we'll see that we can really do a lot. What matters most is we delivering an excellent customer service at the end of the day. Now, we need to analyze who our competitors are. When we really look out, not just within, but look outside, look at our competitors and other businesses and how they've succeeded. We can actually observe them, analyze them, study them, gather insights from our competitors to help us stay relevant in our business and learn from their strategies. We need to also identify and emulate best practices. We need to find out what our competitors are doing right. We need to find out what they are doing well and see if we can adapt similar practices to our organization. We need to also identify where they fail so that we wouldn't fall into that failure also. So we need to identify their pitfalls. We need to avoid their mistakes, understand where they are faltered, and make sure that we proactively make decisions to avoid similar issues. We need to see our competition. We need to see competition as a learning opportunity instead of a threat. So many of us feel that, oh, my competitor is doing this, I can't do this, so they are threat to us. But it's important that we identify what they do well and incorporate it into our businesses or what we do to become better. We need to also maintain happy employees. Now, I mentioned earlier that even as we go on, we understand who our customers are. So now we need to understand that everybody within our space as FMs are actually our customers. So when we relate with our employees also, it's important, and especially for those that are CEOs or owners of business, we need to make sure that we have employee satisfaction, which we know directly impacts customer satisfaction. So when employees feel valued and happy, they are more motivated to provide positive customer experiences. So we need to also understand that treating employees with the same care and respect as customers can actually create a ripple effect within our spaces. So when we have happy employees, we are likely to have happy customers. So when our employees feel like they are valued within the organization, it leads to better performance, it leads to greater loyalty. Now, there are standards also that we need to create and we need to inculcate within us our spaces as FM. We need to understand that the concept of service standards, the standards we need to incorporate are so much. And we need to find out which one we are really failing in. Which one am I doing well? When we identify the things we do well, identify the things we are failing on, and try to, strike out those things that we do wrong, we become better. So we need to clearly define the expectations of our employees. We need to know exactly what is required. So it means it has to be specific. We need to keep our standards simple and easy to understand. Now, some organizations have very complex standards and employees find it difficult to understand. But it's important that we keep it very concise. we'll make sure that our standards also have measurable goals to track performance, not like we have ambiguous goals that we cannot really break down. When we have these things in place, it'll be easy for us to track performances within our spaces. One important thing is also the things that are written within our job descriptions. When employing, some persons just employ, no matter who we are employing, even if the person is just a cleaner, no matter the role, it is important that these persons have access to a job description, and also add that other duties as assigned by management, should be within that job description, so that if they are asked to take up extra tasks, it won't be that, oh, it was not written in my job description. So it's important that we have all these things in place. We need to make these standards a formal part of job expectation so that we can ensure accountability amongst our teams. Now, talking about real-world situations. Now, we know as FM, we encounter so many things within our spaces, HVAC failure, one failure, another, and when we take into consideration the few things we've learned in the last few minutes, we'll see that the first thing we do is for us to actually identify the cause of an issue, not just jumping into solving a problem when you do not really understand the problem thoroughly. So we look at this case, case-by-case basis. We look at it, how they can actually affect the comfort and productivity of our staff. So when we see that, for example, we have HVAC system failure, the first thing we need to do is for the FM team to quickly identify the issue, communicate with the affected departments, and coordinate a swift repair while keeping everyone informed of the progress. I'm sure we've talked about this in previous classes, but it's important that we reiterate this, knowing fully well that we still, fall short of this as FM. We have a downtime. We have downtime somewhere within our space, and we do not think it's important to communicate with the necessary stakeholders within our spaces. It's important that we communicate, and even while we try to coordinate swift repair, we still go along in what's communicating progress of how we are going with the job, until we finally get the job done. And when we see that we have delays coming up, what do we do? Do we just keep doing what we do, as just hoping to assume that, oh, the person or the stakeholders involved will understand that the job is cumbersome or something like that? It's important that we understand that clear communication matters. When you tell the person involved or the stakeholders involved that, oh, this thing is taking longer than I expect, okay, I will need to spend an extra hour to get this job done. That is better than we waiting to be nudged on what we need to do as FM. Okay, so getting into the third module, which is stakeholder identification and analysis. Identifying stakeholders is one of the critical steps in managing facilities effectively. I mentioned that earlier, that we need to really understand who our stakeholders are, because their needs differ, and the way we communicate with them also what differs. So the key stakeholder groups, we have 4 main groups: the direct clients, the management team, colleagues, and visitors. So the importance of identifying stakeholders is for us to understand their needs and expectations and enhance communication, effective communication. Now let's talk about who we consider a customer in our organization, especially in the context of facility management. Sometimes we think that a customer is, or most times we often think that the customer is anyone that pays for our services. Most times when we go to the market, we see ourselves as the customer because we pay for the goods we buy or the services that are being rendered to us. But someone who directly exchanges their money for goods and services to provide, we see them as customers. But this is just a classic straightforward definition. The first definition says a person, organization that exchanges the goods and services provided by your organization, or anyone who pays for the organization to exist. A person or organization that one has to deal with in their day-to-day working world. So these are the 2 definitions. Then I will say that the second definition actually is more individualistic, okay? But the second one reinforces actually explains what we deal with as FMs, knowing fully well that as FMs, our customers are everyone we come across, within our spaces, whether our managers, our employees, our clients, all those that make use of our facilities, they are all our customers. So it suggests that a customer is any individual organization that we interact with in our daily work. So not only those who pay us directly. So it means that all the people that and entities that we encounter within our spaces are referred to our customers. Now, both definitions are definitely essential, but because they shape who we approach our work, when we think about these customers as paying clients, we overlook a lot of things, okay? But when we see them as people that we need to render service to, it's easier for us to for us to deliver our services to them. So the key takeaway here is to understand that both customers are both paying and non-paying members of our working world. So we need to have this mindset so that we're able to deliver service excellence at the end of the day. Now that we understand the broader concept of who a customer is, we need to take a closer look at the different types of customers that we have in facility management. So each type has a unique role and set of expectation. So recognizing these roles will help us deliver a more targeted and effective service. Now we have the end user. The end user is the individual or group that actually initiates requests for our services and is the direct beneficiary of what we provide. So they are the ones who experience the impact of our work most closely. So most of the time, we want to address our building occupants, for example, those that rely on our maintenance, those that rely on security or our cleaning services. So by understanding their needs, by understanding their pain points, we can easily tailor our services to eventually improve our services and improve their experience generally. Now, that is the end user. Now, for the caretaker may or may not use our service directly, okay? But they play a vital role. They make recommendations, okay? So both the end user and the decision maker. So they are kind of an intermediary between the end user and the decision maker. So most times they influence the perception of our work. So because it is what the end user communicates to the middleman, who is the caretaker, that the caretaker also what communicates to the decision maker at the end of the day. So it actually influences the perception of our work a whole lot. So for instance, we have the head of department, for example, that provides feedback on our services or suggests improvements on behalf of their team. So building a positive relationship with caretakers can be very, very instrumental in gaining insights and providing our services. So we see that we need to, we can see ourselves as caretakers, as facility managers, because we relate with decision makers at the same time we relate with the end users. Now, the decision maker is someone that is responsible for giving approvals or final sign-offs. Now, as FMs, we know we have various diversities in this class right now. So we have FMs that are the decision makers at the same time the caretakers. So depending on where we fall, it's important to understand our role and how we can communicate with these people. Now, in facility management, decision makers include company executive, property managers, property owners rather, departmental managers. So it's important for us to build trust with them. It's really, really crucial so that they can gain confidence with our service. Now, for our FM team, your FM team, finally, we should not forget about our own facility management team. Now, we know sometimes, like I mentioned earlier, we have diverse people in this class right now. So we have, some of us have team members who work with 5, 2, as the case may be. But it's important that within our team, okay, we understand that each member relies on input and output interaction to be able to get jobs done. So for example, when we have a maintenance staff that might need that depends on supplies from procurement, for example, why security relies on coordination with maybe the front desk team. Treating each other as internal customers fosters respect. So we need to identify the needs within our team so that we can have a smooth relationship and collaboration. So it's important for us to identify these roles so that we can tailor our approach and meet specific needs within our spaces. Now, assessing customer requirements, we'll talk about that even as we move on, knowing that, our customers will tell you, I need this, I want this, is it possible for me to get this? We need to be able to listen to our customers and try to help them even as we go on. Now, talking about stakeholder analysis. Now, once stakeholders have been identified, the next step is for us to analyze their interest, okay, their influence or power. So the purpose of stakeholder analysis is to assess stakeholders' interest. Now, I mentioned earlier that each of these stakeholders, they have their own interests, they have their own particular needs, and we need to really understand how to go about it. And without this analysis, it's difficult for us to know where they fall. Now, one useful tool is the interest versus power matrix, where stakeholders are categorized based on their level of interest and influence. So the key players have high interest. The key players have high interest and influence, while the supporters have high interest but low influence. So we need to understand this quadrant to be able to understand how to go about it. Now, those that we need to keep satisfied, they have low interest and they have high power. We need to put in enough to keep them satisfied, make sure the communication is just enough. Chances are there that they are not interested in the integrity of the project. Now, we need to understand who these people are. Minor stakeholders have low interest and low influence. And the minor stakeholders are the ones that have low interest and low influence or low power. So those ones are found at this point, low interest, low power. What we need to do for them is to monitor. We need to just make sure that we don't have any problem with them. We need to make sure that we interact with them, but not too often compared to those that have high interest and high influence. Now, the steps for conducting this analysis is to, like I mentioned, is to identify the level of interest and develop strategies to engage with them. Now, like I said earlier, those on the x-axis, the x-axis is the interest, while the y-axis is the influence. So the x-axis measures the level of interest a stakeholder has in the facility management activities, so whether low or high. While the y-axis, it measures the level of influence a stakeholder has over the facility management activities, whether low or high. So this is the y-axis, sorry. This is the y-axis, and why this is, the y-axis is the vertical, while the x-axis is the horizontal. So we need to understand that this analysis really matters a lot. So when we are able to measure this analysis or go through this analysis, it's very easy for us to understand. Now, those that have high interest and high power are the senior management, okay? They have very key interest in the sources of the FM operations. So we know that senior management will need to know how things go. They want to know how our clients are faring, okay? They want to know everything that has to do with the organization generally. So these are the key clients also. Major clients who rely on FM services for their operations can also have influence service levels. So we have major investors also. Those who have invested significantly into the business, they will want to know everything that is happening within the organization. So these people are actually on the first quadrant. Now, the second is the high interest, low power, which we also refer to them as supporters. So these are the facility users, okay? The regular users of the facility, they are highly interested in the quality of services, but they do not really have much they can do when it comes to decision making. They don't make decisions. So all they can do is to have interest, but there's little they can do, which is the low power. So we have operational staff, employees that work within the facility who have high interest in operational efficiency, but they cannot really make decisions or strategic decisions on their own. Now, the third quadrant, which is low interest, high power, refer to them as potential influencers. So these are government regulators, external partners, and the media. Now, the government regulators, we know definitely What makes them have low interest? Let's take, for example, you need to pay your tax, right? And business is not doing well. The government definitely do not care whether your business is doing well or not. All they need you to do is to what? Make sure you pay your tax and all the fees you need to pay. You need to comply to all these things, regardless of how your company is doing. So, but they have high power because they can shut your company down. They can make sure you have they shut down your services because you do not comply to certain regulations. So we see that they have low interest and high power. Now, for those that have low interest and low power, these fall in the fourth quadrant. We refer to them as minor stakeholders. Okay, these ones are casual visitors and people in the public that really do not have so much power within the organization. So these are people that visit the facility, maybe not too frequently. They do not really have interest in what is going on. They just come in to do whatever they want to do, and then they get out, okay? Now, the general public also, they are being affected by the FM operations, but they do not have any interest or influence within the space. So if we're able to understand where all these people fall into, we'll be able to know, okay, who should I communicate more frequently with? Okay, who should I get customer service from? Like, for example, we visit some public facilities and we have suggestion boxes around, okay, where you can just drop something. Now, sometimes the facility owners or the people in charge do not really take these things important. They just put their suggestion boxes there without even acting on what is being dropped there. But then when you have surveys for your clients, for example, your facility users, okay, you want to know their pain, you want to know where you need to improve on. And once you get feedback from them, you definitely want to respond to them immediately because you do not want to lose your job or you don't want to get a bad reputation. So you pay more interest, pay close interest on them. You maintain regular communication with these people. So it's important that we identify all this so that we can easily make use of the matrix. We need to identify and engage with the key players. We need to support and inform the supporters. We need to monitor the potential influencers and then communicate with our minor stakeholders. So this is all with the stakeholder analysis. All right, so talking about communication techniques and tools, definitely even as we've identified our stakeholders and we've analyzed how to, identify who they are and their needs, we know that definitely we communicate with them. Now, the voice of our customers matter. In facility management, we need to consider who our primary customer is within our organization. So this is often a critical relationship that shapes what we do daily, definitely. Now, we have the primary customer, or the primary customer who we refer to as our boss or our senior management team. So within our organization, our boss or senior management team, they're often seen as the primary customer. Okay, they set direction, they establish standards, they have the final say to whatever we do. They have the final say when it comes to allocation of resources. So when we understand that these are the primary customers, we need to pay close attention to them. Now, the expectations and feedback directly impacts our goals and priorities. We know that when we listen to them carefully, it is easy for us to understand their vision and to eventually help us to align our actions within the organization objective. Now, within talking about the voice of our customers, we have several customer service channels. We have the phone, which is the more prevalent one we use within our organization. We have the emailing, we have live chats, we have social media, video chats, communities and forums, maybe WhatsApp group or any other, maybe Teams. We have so many tools that we use for that. And we have self-service knowledge base. So depending on what we use within our organization, we need to know which particular tool works best for which particular customer. So when we understand these things, it will be easy for us to interact with our customers. Now, the senior management is definitely key when it comes to interaction because We have the individual departments and outside companies that affect our operations both directly and indirectly. So for example, we have other departments that rely on our services, okay, that provides us with resources or give us feedback that affect how we operate. Now it's important that we identify these people and work effectively with them so that we can, get this feedback and do better. We have external vendors also, that contribute to the ability for us to deliver quality services. And we know that these external vendors might affect impact on our jobs or timeliness. Sometimes you want to, maybe you have downtime with your generator, okay, and you need to fix a particular part, you need to change a particular part, and then the vendor has not delivered, or the contractor in charge is not responding. How do we respond to such issues? Okay, when we identify the things that we need to do within with regards to this particular issue, it's easy for us to fix issues. Now, understanding the impact matters a lot. Now, like I mentioned earlier, that the voice of our customers is essential to our work. We need to understand by definitely acknowledging their impacts. We need to, if we know that, okay, we've not been having a very good relationship with them, we need to make sure that we have a good relationship with our vendors, identify how we respond to them. We need to adapt to their way of, service delivery. Now, if it's in a wrong way, we need to make sure that we call them to order to make sure that they are in line, we are on the same page, so that things would not go wrong within our organization. So recognizing and actively listening to each of these voices would actually help us to provide a well-rounded, responsive FM service. It allows us to also identify areas where we need improvements, where we need to adjust, where we need to make changes. At the end of the day, it helps us to make better decisions that would benefit the organization. So we need to always remember that in facility management, the voice of every customer matters, from senior management to external contractors. So listening to their voices will definitely strengthen our relationships. It will refine our service and enhance our reputation for our organization to do better. Okay, I think at this point we'll take 5 minutes break. Yes, 5 minutes, so can resume and come back just 2 minutes before 6 to be able to cover the other modules. So let's take about 5 minutes break now. Continue thereafter. All right, 5 minutes is over. Let's take a quick break. All right, so I hope you're back. Continue with the lesson now. We still have more modules to go. Now, talking about how communication works. In facility management, effective communication is definitely the key cornerstone to our success. We've talked about that. I've mentioned that a few times. And it's not just about the words we use. You know, most of the time when we talk about communication, we just think it's about we speaking, okay, but there is more to it than just speaking. So it's a mix of several skills and considerations that actually helps us to convey messages clearly. So we need to build trust. We need to achieve our objectives. These are the two things that matters when it comes to our relationship with our clients. Now, the key skills for effective communication, the first is nonverbal communication. I mentioned earlier that definitely communication is not just about what we say, okay? So our body language, our facial expressions, our eye contact definitely plays a significant role in how we communicate with our clients in how our message is eventually perceived. So sometimes what we don't say can communicate just as much as what we say. You know, sometimes we make faces, you know, and we do not really know what we are portraying when we make those faces, but we cannot really tell or determine how the other party would interpret the faces we are making, okay, or our body language. We cannot determine how they will interpret it, okay? So that is why it is very important for us to make our communications very clear. So we need to also we need to be engaged in listening. More important than speaking is listening. So true listening is more than just hearing words, you know. It's about we understanding and showing interest in what the other person is saying. You know, when someone is trying to explain their situation, a particular problem, okay, within your facility, and you just listen without responding, or without, you know, really showing that you are getting what the person is saying, okay, that is not listening. Listening is about you showing interest and letting the other person know that, okay, I understand what you're saying. Okay, do you mean this? Do you mean that? So this helps to actually respond accurately and shows respect for the other person. Managing stress in the moment, we know that we have a lot of high pressure situations as FM. It can be very, very challenging to communicate effectively during those moments when we are stressed, especially when we have urgent situations that we need to attend to. So we need to learn to manage stress in real time. It allows us to remain calm. It allows us to have to respond thoughtfully. We know that this might not be easy. It's easier said than done, but this is something that we can actually practice as individuals, knowing that when we are stressed, we make certain decisions that might affect us either positively or more negatively. So the ability for us to manage stress within that particular moment will go a long way in making our issues solved. It's better for us to respond thoughtfully rather than respond reactively. Now, the other part is communicating assertively. Now, being assertive is it means expressing our thoughts and needs clearly while respecting others. So this is actually a balance between confidence and empathy. So it helps us build professional relationships. So we need to understand our own emotions and those that we are communicating with. We know that sometimes, like I mentioned, being stressed, when you are stressed, you know, you're just thinking about, oh, what's going to happen next? Oh, how are these people going to survive? You know, depending on the kind of particular situation we find ourselves, okay? When we are able to recognize that, okay, we do not have to put emotions to this, okay? Maybe you have your vendor is not coming on time, he's not bringing our the particular part that needs to be fixed, okay? He's not bringing it on time and there's delay and your client is on you, you know, pressure everywhere. How do you respond? Do you have someone come to you and then you just snap at that person? You know, these things happen, they are inevitable, but then we need to learn to manage these things effectively. So it's important for us to be emotionally aware. We need to recognize and understand our emotions as well as those of the people we are actually communicating with to allow us to have a more effective communication. Now we have different communication channels I mentioned earlier. So these different communication channels, it depends on the particular communication we are trying to, get involved with. But it's important for us to choose the right one at a time. We need to understand, okay, when should I have a face-to-face communication with this person? When should I use a phone? When should I send a mail? When should I write on a hard paper, copy paper? Okay, you need to identify these things so that we can actively communicate with our stakeholders. So face-to-face communication, for example, is very, very ideal when we require immediate feedback. Okay, we need to have personal interaction. Maybe we want to solve a problem that is so urgent and it is really, really sensitive. Instead of calling on the phone, taking more time, or sending email, and it will take maybe a day for that person to respond to the email. You feel, okay, fine, this situation right now is for me to meet this person face to face, whether it's within your space or in another location. You need to make sure that that is really, really done immediately. Now we have at the point when we need to use our mobile phones. So this is when we need to make we need to get quick and real-time updates. When you need to get something, maybe you don't have to travel, you don't want to travel far, or even the person is just maybe in the second floor, you don't want to, go down to meet the person, you just want something really prompt. You can quickly make a phone call and then get the required information that you need. Now we have emails, like I mentioned earlier. This is very, very suitable for formal communication. For example, you want to request or you want to communicate to top management what is happening with your facility. You definitely would not want to call your boss to say, okay, this is what is happening. Whatever updates you need to give with regards to this has to be done via mail. Now, if we do not really have these things in place in our organization, these are moments where we can actually suggest to our key stakeholders or our bosses to say, okay, it's better for us to communicate in this way. And most importantly too, when we know that some things are meant to be documented, okay, we can use our emails so that we can have these things documented easily. You can easily refer to an email than refer to a phone call. You cannot say, oh, you had a service breakdown some time ago, and then you have to send the client a message to say, okay, we'll need to fix this within so period of time. And then you send to the client without copying management. Okay, these things are really, really important. When something comes up in the future, maybe in the next 1 month or thereabouts, and you have some discrepancies or you have some issues you need to settle out, all you need to do is to recall the mail you sent, okay? Use that same mail trail to communicate with the stakeholders involved. It is better to do that than make a phone call that you cannot refer to. Now, talking about the written, that is actually the traditional written communication, like reports. Many of us still write our reports on paper, okay? If this is what we use in our organization, and we know we can actually make reference to them, it is important that we do such at those points. So it's also important for us to, in important factors in communication, we have presentation, we have channels, and completeness, medium. So presentation is how well we present our communication, okay? When we talk about face-to-face, for example, what tone do you use? How clear are you with your words, okay? These things actually have great impact on how it is received. Now, the channels we use, as I mentioned earlier, we need to choose the correct channel for effective messaging. So we need to choose which works best for us. Now, the completeness also ensures that our message is complete, providing all necessary information. It actually reduces misunderstanding. Like, for example, we know definitely as FMs, we have our asset register, we have our FCA and the likes that we work with, okay? When these things are complete, we can easily refer to them at at one point or the other. This will actually reduce misunderstanding and confusion. Now, the medium we use also, we choose whether it is face-to-face or it's written or it's a formal, we want it to be formal or informal, depending on how we want it. So communication in FM actually goes beyond just words, okay, by combining the right skills, okay, being thoughtful, choosing the right channel and all that, we eventually strengthen our ability to collaborate and resolve issues. It actually eventually provides excellent service. So effective communication builds trust, and it is central to fulfilling our role in our organization. Now we have the verbal communication. I mentioned that earlier. This is very important. I'll just skip this part. All that we need to know concerning verbal communication is that we have to speak clearly. We have to make sure that we pronounce our words. We need to be confident when speaking and all that, so that we will not be misunderstood. Now, talking about the non-verbal communication, we need to make sure that our body language will maintain an open posture. Make sure that we make good eye contact. Make sure that we use appropriate gestures. Very, very important. Make sure that our facial expressions too, our smiles, our nods. You know, when someone mentioned some time ago that when you nod, you know, up and down in Nigeria, it means yes. But when you nod sideways or you move your head sideways, it means no. But in some other settings, it's the other way around. So we need to really identify or be able to know when to use these facial expressions. Our hands, you know, all that matters is for us to eventually build good rapport with our stakeholders. Now, talking about written communication, I already made that clear. We need to make sure that while writing, you know, many of us will say, oh, in those days, we used to have this notion that, oh, engineers are not good with English. They don't know how to write. But that is very, very wrong. Wherever organization we find ourselves, we know definitely we have to write, we have to communicate. So if we need to take courses for us to get better with written communication, we need to actually really do that. You know, many of us, or not many of us, all of us in this class will be doing our project. These projects will be communicated through writing. So if we are not really good at writing, it's difficult for us to report our project effectively. So it's important for us to proofread for errors, use bullet points when necessary, include necessary information, that will prevent follow-up questions. Oh, you wrote this. What do you mean by this? Okay, this is really important. We need to structure our words when writing. Very, very important. Okay, so listening and feedback, one important tool, we talked about listening. I mentioned earlier that more important than speaking is listening. Another thing I mentioned also is that we need to get clarification, especially when we are speaking with our clients. They want to tell us what they are going through. They want to tell us their pain points. It's important that we get clarification instead of assuming that we understand what this person is trying to say. It's better to say, oh, I'm not clear with this. Do you mean this? When you said this, did you mean this? Can you repeat what you just said? Oh, I didn't get you right. These are words we should use when trying to get clarification when speaking. We've talked about assertiveness and empathy. Now we have barriers to effective communication. We've talked about that already, and negative body language. Now, one very important thing, I mentioned that earlier also, I just want to make or reiterate it. It's important that when we are going through stress and we have clients telling us, oh, this is what I need you to do, and you realize that you've had so much, you cannot really comprehend what they're trying to tell you. It's better we get someone else that is more calm and collected to keep to get all the information you need. Ask for help when needed. Do not overload yourself with too much information, because if you do, you're going to lose a lot of information that you're supposed to actually have to make your work better. So let's make sure that we do not increase the tension we face. Let's learn to ask for help when needed. Okay, we've talked about communication tools and the mode of communication. So we know that there are various tools available for effective communication in FM. We've talked about that already. One thing I did not mention is when we need to have meetings. Sometimes we feel it is just we sending emails. What if you are sending emails to top management and there's no response? or there's no concrete, or you're not really getting what you want, when do you need to really call for a meeting? Let's understand that meetings are also important. It goes a long way in making sure we are at the same level with top management or with our clients. It's important that we call for meetings when needed, either face-to-face meetings or virtual meetings. Now, when we have stakeholders meetings, we have staff meetings, we have client meetings, we know that the meetings we have with our clients is definitely different from the meetings we have with our staff. We need to understand the kind of communication we need to have within those spaces and how we need to make sure that those things are documented. Very, very important. Documentation is one key to FM. When we document, we see that it is easy for us to go back to what we must have recorded down for more implementation or for reference. Okay, I'm skipping all these parts because we've talked about them already. Now, talking about feedback, customer service surveys is really, really important. Now, the purpose of customer service surveys is for us to be able to gather structured feedback from our customers about their experience with our services. I hope we all do that in our facilities, because definitely when we do not get feedback from our clients, we do not really know what their pain point is. We do not really know what we are doing wrong. We do not really know what we need to improve on. So it helps us to identify areas of strength and improvement. It also helps us provide data analysis, because definitely we analyze the data and know where and what we need to improve on. So we have post-service surveys that would allow us to know what we need to deliver. And we have periodical satisfaction surveys that we give to our clients from time to time. Now we have face-to-face interactions also to obtain immediate direct feedback. We've talked about that already, so that this is to enable us get real-time clarification. For example, you want to fix something within your space and you need to get a particular information just right there. All you need to do is to do a face-to-face interaction. Now, one thing I want to talk about is the vendor surveys. We need to do surveys for our vendors so that we'll know which vendor we need to continue working with or which one we need to cut out. These things are important. It helps to eventually help us make great decisions and informative decisions. Now we have the annual performance reviews. This is done within space organizations where these performance reviews can either lead to you being appraised or getting a raise or getting recognition. These things are important also in our organization. Now, 360 feedback is not so common, but we have organizations that make use of it. So this is when you get feedback from everyone within your organization, either your subordinates or your supervisors. So it works both ways. So it's an avenue for us to get a well-rounded view of an individual's performance. It actually encourages personal and professional development. Some organizations sees it as, oh, if I hear from my subordinates, my subordinate may say this about me, which I wouldn't like. So let's just scrap it, So, but some organizations see it as a very good way to get better. When your subordinates can tell you this is what you are doing wrong, when on a normal day you wouldn't even identify it as a wrong in the first place. So these things matter. So, but as it is, we all need to find out which actually works for us. So we've talked about feedback, and let me quickly talk about customer surveys do's and don'ts. There are things we need to do and there are things we shouldn't do. Now, customer survey questions should be measurable, should be specific and not vague. Now, if, for example, you give your customers a list of a customer survey, so to say, and you have about 50 questions, imagine, definitely they will not want to fill such surveys next time. And even if you just give it to them, you tell them, oh, I'll come back and get it, I'm sure you wouldn't even get the response you desire. So, but then it's important that we make sure that our surveys are as brief as possible. The questions we should be asking should be the ones that will help us inform decisions. We shouldn't ask questions that would be yes or no. We should ask questions that would make them explain themselves, okay? That will make them really express how they feel and where you need to improve on. So we need to always ask for feedback so that we can identify those things and get them documented. Now, 97% of customers never complain to people who deliver the service or product. They won't complain. They will just keep doing what they do or they ignore. Okay, but it's important that for us to get this feedback so that we can, get our jobs done and do all that we need to do. Now, more important than receiving these surveys is we acting on them. We get these surveys together and then they suggest things that they need improvement on. And then we do not communicate to them to say, oh, I received a survey, I saw what you suggested, or we're going to discuss it within the management and then get back to you. Or this is what we are doing based on what you've suggested. It's important that we communicate all these things to make our job easier. And that it will be easy for our clients to feel whatever surveys we bring to them each time we bring them, because they know definitely those things will be acted upon. These things are really important. Now we have the FM monthly reports. I'm sure most facility management practitioners would definitely report monthly based on what they must have done. So monthly reports, they are created for both internal historical narrative purpose and also it contains FM accomplishments, milestones, operational challenges, personnel issues, financial metrics. There are a lot of line items that you need to cover in your FM monthly report. But it's important for us to invest time in these reports. And this is to eventually make us make informed decisions. Now, taking it to the C-suite, we know definitely it's also about the same thing. These reports will eventually make us have FM business reviews with our bosses. Okay. Now let's quickly move ahead to conflict resolution and negotiation. We know definitely this is inevitable. We have conflicts within our organizations from time to time. We have some organization that is always one conflict resolution or another. Okay. These things happen within organization. So, but the common source of conflicts we have is resource allocation. When you have disputes over the use and distribution of resources, you say, oh, FM got 50% of so, and another department is getting more. Why is FM not getting so much more? After all, FM does this. You have so many justification. Everybody starts dragging to say, oh, this and that. So you have these things happens, misunderstanding, lack of clear communication. These things happen within our organization. So conflicts arising from different goals and priorities among stakeholders. You have interpersonal relationship and team dynamics that can lead to conflict. Okay, so conflicts can decrease productivity eventually and lower morale and disrupt operations. These are the impacts of conflicts within our organization. So when we definitely understand this common source of conflict, we can proactively work towards solving these things. Now, this is a complete scenario, a maintenance scheduling conflict. The background is that a critical piece of equipment has gotten bad within the facility and it needs urgent maintenance. But we already have a proposed maintenance schedules, but this maintenance schedule conflicts with another major event from probably the training department. Now, the stakeholders that are involved in this conflict is the maintenance team, the event organizers, and the facility manager. Now, the maintenance team insists on immediate repairs to prevent potential breakdown. And the event organizers are arguing that, oh, the maintenance will disrupt their planned activities, leading to dissatisfaction and potential financial loss. So you see the event organizers, they will tell you, oh, they've decorated the hall, they've done this, the speakers are coming, they need to make sure that they organize their events out. But then the maintenance team is saying, oh, we need to do our maintenance now, it was scheduled. How do we resolve such conflicts? These things happen within our organization. What are the strategies for us to resolve this? Okay, we need to make sure that we communicate clearly. That is the first thing. So the thing is, since this maintenance was scheduled, it's important that the maintenance team lets all people with the stakeholders be aware that, oh, we have a major maintenance, an urgent maintenance that we need to carry out a so day. It will happen for so day. It will last for so number of hours. So we need to be clear with all this to avoid things like this. Now, the question is, how does the facility managers resolve this issue? I want each and every one of us to think about this. You can drop your responses on the chat box so that others can see how we respond. But at the end of the day, the only way we can resolve this is to either, we know since the maintenance has been scheduled and the training department has already fixed that particular venue for their events, what can we do as facility managers to make sure that these things are resolved? Okay, I want us to drop our responses on the chat box. At the end of the day, will the training hold, will the event hold, or will the maintenance team carry out their repairs? Is it what do we need to do now? The training is not holding today. It's probably holding maybe tomorrow or next. The best thing that can be done as regards this scenario is to make sure that you probably work with your maintenance team to carry out the maintenance before the time the event happens. The event organizers can definitely not move their events, okay? If it depends on whatever we need to maintain, if it's the AC or it's, I don't know, it can definitely not be, maybe let's use, for example, the AC, for example. How can we manage the situation, okay? So there are two ways to it. It's either we just have to come to a common ground to make sure that this issue is resolved. But most importantly, the FM would definitely come in to say, oh, let's do it beforehand, or the maintenance can wait. Let's do it. If the event will not take long, let's do it after the event. So now the strategies for resolving conflicts involves what? Mediation, and that is where the FM comes in. So using a neutral third party to help resolve the disputes is what, so someone in the maintenance team, for example, cannot resolve the issue. Someone within the event planning team can definitely not resolve the issue. So problem solving is a collaborative issue. We need to find a mutual and acceptable solution to this. Active listening is also important. We need to fully understand the perspective of all the parties that are involved. So listen to both parties and then find a common ground. So definitely you must have identified the source of conflict, communicate openly, okay, and honestly, explore options and alternatives, like I mentioned earlier. Agree on the solution and follow through. Now, the benefit of this is that effective conflict resolution will lead to what? Improved relationships. It will enhance cooperation and increase productivity. Another way, like I mentioned earlier, where you can avoid such conflict is when you have proactively notified everyone of a scheduled maintenance. Now, another scenario is concerning budget allocation. I mentioned that in passing. You have the annual budget for facility, which includes allocation of both upgrading security system and enhancing HVAC system. Now, budget is insufficient to cover both projects. So you have two projects, HVAC system and then the security system. We know that these two things are definitely important within the organization. Now, the stakeholders involved are the security team, the HVAC team, the finance department, and the facility manager. And the conflict now is the security team argues that upgrading the security system is critical due to recent incidents and potential safety risk. Now, the HVAC team is saying they're emphasizing the importance of enhancing the HVAC system to improve energy efficiency and occupant comfort. Like I mentioned earlier, these two things are really, really important within our spaces. Now, what can we do as facility managers to resolve this issue? Okay. One important thing is for us, like I mentioned, is for us to identify the source. Now we know that depending on where our organization, when we talk about annual budgets, these things are planned. Like now, we are getting to the end of the year. Some companies have their year end beginning probably at the middle of the year or maybe at the end of the year, depending on how we manage our calendar within our organization. But let's take, for example, your beginning of the year is January and it ends in December. It means by now you must have been planning for next year, 2025. So your annual budgets, you have, you must have submitted your budgets at the end of this year so that by next year when you are being funded and you realize that, okay, these things need to be done. You need to upgrade security and you need to enhance your HVAC system. What do you need to do? Realize that they are giving more, the funds you have is not for sufficient for both. What can you do? Do you leave one and do the other? okay? Or what can you do, okay? There are several ways in which we can solve this issue. At the end of the day, the communication we have between all the stakeholders involved will help us facilitate a decision at the end of the day. It's important for us to have negotiation skills. It matters a lot when it comes to resolving issues. So negotiation skills are essential for various aspects of FM, including securing resources and managing contracts. So importance of negotiation in FM is really, really important, like I mentioned. So the key things we need when negotiating is the tactics. We need to do a lot of research. We need to understand the needs and goals of all parties involved. We need to articulate our position and listen to others. We need to find a common ground. This goes also with resolving conflicts. We need to be willing to adjust our position and find compromises. So at the end of the day, all we need to do is to stay calm, compose, focus on an interest and not our position. We know definitely as an organization, we work for the same common goal. And because we work for the same common goal, it will be easier for us to find a common ground than to shift blames or try to say, oh, I want to win. I want to be the one to win. Okay. So we need to be willing to adjust our position and find compromises. Now, talking about building and maintaining relationship, this is really, really important. In FM, it is all about what? Relationships. We can only do better when we relate well with our stakeholders. Things only get better when we relate well with our stakeholders. Now, strong relationships are essential for effective facility management. Good relationships leads to better cooperation, trust, and communication. So the key benefits of having a healthy relationship is that it supports affection. We have more trust and respect. We have less conflict, or we're able to manage conflict more effectively. So we'll have better teamwork. We'll have problem solving capability, a positive working environment, and a higher job satisfaction. So this is what we have when we have an improved relationship with all stakeholders. Now, maintaining relationship is just about building them. Actually, maintaining relationship is just as important as building them. So we don't just build relationship. It's important that we maintain those relationships. So we need to schedule regular communication, schedule consistent updates and meetings to eventually stay connected. We need to acknowledge contributions and successes to boost morale and show appreciation. We need to also address issues promptly. We shouldn't allow issues to slip, okay? Two staff, for example, colleagues had an issue today, and then you allow it to linger till next month. Definitely work will not go on very well as it's supposed to be. So we need to always look for ways to improve and innovate in our relationship. So now we have Francisco Rivers that introduced a 5-finger rule. It's an analogy using the human hand to highlight key aspects of effective teamwork. Now, when we talk about teamwork, we're talking about diversity, collaboration, synergy, adaptability, and communication. So each finger represents a unique element, emphasizing the importance of these traits within a team. So this insightful metaphor, it provides valuable guidance that can be applied to various professional settings. So when you have in your team, for example, those that are in the AC maintenance technicians, for example, you have the electrical person there, you have the plumbing, you have all these people within your team. How do you work effectively without having issues? So by understanding and implementing this 5-finger rule, facility management teams can actually enhance their performance and achieve greater efficiency. So let's see what these 5 fingers represent. Now, the 5 fingers, starting with the thumb. The thumb represents diversity in skills and perspective. So just as the thumb differs significantly from the other fingers, you can see that the thumb is actually what far away from the other four fingers. So this represents that each team actually brings distinct set of skills, perspective, and experience to the table. Like I mentioned earlier, talking about your team members, where you have your HVAC technician, you have your electrical, you have the plumbing people, that you have all other persons within the same team. How do you recognize and value each of these persons within the team? Okay, so this is what this particular term represents. So embracing this diversity actually fosters a more comprehensive approach to problem solving. We understand that people have various viewpoints. So, but we need to what? Consider these viewpoints so that we can have a more innovative and well-rounded solutions. Now, talking about the second finger, which is the index finger. The index finger represents collaboration. It represents collaboration. So the index finger, most times we use the index finger for pointing and directing. So it symbolizes the importance of what? Collaboration. So just as the fingers work in unison to form a fist, okay, all teams are supposed to what? Collaborate effectively to achieve a common goal. So prioritizing collaboration over competition matters a lot. It involves having open communication channels, fostering culture of mutual respect. That's one thing I've got to enjoy in most of the organizations I've worked. When you are allowed to speak, regardless of who you are, it is easier for you to what? Collaborate. You do not undermine what this other person has to say. So you have regular meetings to discuss ideas, challenges, and progress that you need to have within your team. So eventually, to make you have a very, very cohesive team where you can ensure a safe and well-maintained facility. Now, the third finger is the middle finger, which represents synergy. And the middle finger we see is the longest finger and also the strongest finger. The middle finger represents synergy. The idea is that the collective effort of the team exceeds some of its individual contributions. So we see that sometimes when team members work together harmoniously, they leverage their unique strengths. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. So, but then when we focus on the strengths of every person within the team, it actually drives exceptional results. And we see that those that even have one weakness or the other would want to what? Sit up to eventually get better and have more skills when it comes to contributions. And this will eventually make their contributions to be what? Valued. Now, this can actually happen within our facilities and to play a major role in helping us have an overall success. Now, the fourth finger, which is the ring finger, represents adaptability. So the ring finger is often associated with ability due to its flexibility. It underscores the importance of dynamic work environment. So we know at least these days, we have people that work remotely, people that work, in an hybrid situation. So it actually creates an avenue for us to be open to change. It helps us to embrace new technology. Even as I mentioned earlier, that as FMs, we need to embrace technology, because technology is what drives FM right now. So for us to be better, we need to try as we can to adapt to the evolving industry standards. Okay, we need to get as much training even as we are getting now. Make sure that we skill up. Try as we can to improve ourselves from time to time. Find out where we are failing and look for ways and resources to get better so that we do not fall back. Okay, this will actually make us become flexible. So we see that within a team, sometimes it's when like I mentioned earlier, the plumbing people that work together, the plumbing system, that work with the electrical system. You see someone in the plumbing department, for example, suggesting to someone that is doing electrical. That is because he must have picked up one skill or another, or has an idea of what is going on within the other space. So we shouldn't limit ourselves. So that is what adaptability means. Now, the last finger, which is the pinky finger, talks about communication, which is exactly what we've been talking about for the past 1 hour 30 minutes. So this actually involves knowing fully well that communication and coordination is important within our team. So we need to coordinate ourselves effectively as a team. We need to be clear and open and regular in our communication. This actually ensures that our communication is seamless, information flows seamlessly among all team members. Not that something is happening with a facility with an equipment and the other team member is not even aware. Okay, so we need to make sure that we will communicate effectively as a team. This actually makes it clear that we need to actively listen to each other. We need to get feedbacks from all our team members. We need to foster an environment where everyone feels comfortable in sharing their own ideas. Okay, when you do surveys and you ask questions like, do you feel comfortable with sharing ideas with top management, and the answer you get is no, then you know there's a problem somewhere. Or when you ask questions like, oh, do you feel top management would accept your contributions or your suggestions, and you get the answer like no, that means there's also a problem somewhere. So we need to learn to work together as a team and listen to each other's suggestions to eventually get better as a team. So now this is what the 5-finger rule represents. So the practical steps for implementing these 5-finger rules: we need to recognize and leverage on the unique skills and perspective of each team member. We need to foster collaboration. We need to create synergy. We need to promote adaptability and ensure clear communication. When we do all this, we see that we can be, sorry, please, that person is not muted. Please stay muted. All right. So Adebola Abiodun, please stay muted, please. All right, so when we do all this, we see that we can actually build a strong team with an effective team that is capable of achieving great things. And it's important for us to embrace this approach and work together to be able to create a thriving and well-managed environment. So let's make sure that we incorporate this within our facilities or within our spaces so that we can get better and do better. So I think we've come to the end of today's class. We have enough time for questions. I would... Okay, so we can take questions now, please. So let's ask questions based on what we've learned so far in the class. Okay, Clement, please go ahead.
All right, good evening. Thank you for the intensive and lecture you just gave to this evening. My question is basically where I work. Other people would like to benefit from it as well. Getting the answer from you. Where I work, sometimes apart from us having an hand which cover the do's and don'ts of the estate, sometimes resident knows that they are saying they don't not supposed to do. But you find them doing it over and over again when you have communicated to them verbally, outside having the estate constitution with them that guide the activities in the estate. But over time, you see them doing such things. Like a scenario that happened a few days back. In our constitution, we actually don't allow pets moving around the estate except they're on leash. If they're not on leash, we don't allow. It's an offense. There's an offense, and there's a fine for you. But someone that just parked into the estate, Allah is this English rabbit that's white in color, have white long ears. And my boss said I should go and talk to him and give him a verbal warning, which I did twice. And even after doing that twice, and I told him again the estate rule, we still keep seeing those pets moving around the estate. And my boss said, okay, send him a letter. And I wrote a letter. My boss, and I sent again. I went to his house, I gave to him. He said he's not going to sign that letter. So we had a little argument, and I left. And I met my boss. My boss said, okay, no problem. I should draw the letter. They know how to deal with issues. So such people like that, how do you deal with them? Since they are very hard. I don't know. How do you deal with them? Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. Now, I'll want to ask a follow-up question, but I don't need you to answer. So now, you said the facility or the estate has an handbook. I would want to ask if this handbook, based on the rules that you have there, do they have sanctions or consequences? Because if you have laid down rules and you do not have consequences, maybe after several warnings, then it will be difficult for you to solve that particular situation. Now, the first thing first, when dealing with residents that have issues or issues with flaunting rules, the first thing is for you to document everything. Definitely, you must have given the person a first warning or maybe a second warning, depending on how your handbook is structured. And then maybe the third warning will be like a consequence. So when you document everything and you communicate clearly, and then you offer a warning or consequence for breaking a particular rule, it will be easy for you to solve such issues. But then it is also important for you to maintain a positive attitude when even when you're frustrated with the whole thing. We talked about communication. We always say customers are always right, even when they are wrong, right? So, but then again, customers are not right when they have rules guiding them and they flaunt those rules. So the only solution to that such problem is when you have consequences for flaunting such rules. So if that has not been incorporated, I guess you have to suggest to the stakeholders involved in putting those rules together to also add sanctions or consequences to such rules when they are being flaunted. I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Clement.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Does any other person have questions? I would say this is one of the most less technical courses in FMMC. So answering the follow-up questions, assignments will be quite easy. Wenga, please go ahead with your question.
Just like the question you posed, I have a question related to that.
Okay.
Now, the FM, I'm talking about the area of the conflicts.
Okay.
What about the drone event and the situation arise in which FM have to come in? Because other people, they didn't see the FM as the priority. They didn't see them as number one. They didn't see them as maybe the people that only be on ground. So now, how are we going to solve this issue? Assuming, because the question that you asked is okay. Answer to the question is that okay, well, maybe during the event, maybe the FM need to alter whatever they want to do before the event commence or before event time. How about because we have some issues that do happen during the event period? How are we going to resolve that conflict, ma?
Okay, so your question is where you work or where you are right now, they don't really see FM as people that make certain decisions or make certain moves, or they do not really respect what an FM would do, or they do not really recognize what an FM would do within such spaces. It's important that you communicate with top management. Now, you might not be able to drive these things yourself, okay? When top management can communicate to all other stakeholders within the organization, your role as an FM, okay, clearly, to let them know that, okay, oh, this FM is the one in charge of this, in charge of that. When you want to do this, you need to talk to him. When you want to do that, you need to talk to him. So that kind of a thing, you have to relate with top management, because like I mentioned earlier, you are kind of an intermediary between your top management and, or should I say, you're an intermediary between the end users and maybe top management or decision makers. So you need to make sure that you have that relationship. Now, especially when you find you meet those particular clients on ground, maybe you come in new, for example, it's important that top management or those stakeholders involved should make sure they have clear introduction and let the people involved know that, okay, this is what this person needs to do. So that when you want to carry out some major scheduled maintenance, it will be easy for you to let these people know so that they don't plan their event towards when you want to have your maintenance, and you easily resolve, you won't have an issue. And even when you want to eventually resolve, maybe the issue is happening already, you definitely cannot do it alone. Because in this case now, it's about you. The way you are sounding now, it seems you are the FM at the same time the maintenance team. So this kind of a thing, you have to bring in the decision maker to resolve such issue. Mr. Benga, please, is your question answered?
Very well, ma. Thanks so much, ma. Thank
All
you, ma.
right. Thank you. We need more questions. We still have 10 minutes. Okay, maybe I should use this moment to get feedback about the two scenarios I mentioned earlier. I want to know what you would do in those two scenarios. Any of them, choose any of them and respond to it. Let me take my slide back. Okay, so the first issue I already responded to it, but then Ms. Adebola, please go ahead.
Okay, good evening, ma. Good evening, class.
Good evening, Ms. Adebola.
Oh, in that scenario, firstly, the facility manager has not communicated to other departments, so that if he has, there should not be clash in the two events. That's one. And peradventure, since there is not a clash, I'll try to do the best I can do to solve it before the event, to solve it amicably. It might involve me doing extra work, night or extra shift, but I'll do my best to get it done before the event, not to affect the event. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. That's one way to solve that conflict. Does any other person want to add? Either this or the second conflict.
Can I have the first?
All right, please go ahead.
It actually boils down to lack of communication, because if the FM had communicated to the organization at a particular time, there will be a maintenance maybe on generator, and they know that the director is going to be maintain the director period. So even when they are booking the event, they will not inform them that no, we are having maintenance. This is the effect. If you book on this day, the NEPA light goes off, we can't be able to supply you electricity. So they will shift. They have to shift it from that. It's actually lack of communication. But if now in that scenario that it crashed, I think the best is to look at the effect of doing it at that moment or not doing it. If there's going to be a negative effect, if you don't do it at that particular time, I think the best way is to look for a way to do extra, just as the young man, my colleagues communicated before, to ensure that issue is being resolved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. Any other contribution, please? Or question? I've not heard any lady's voice today. Oh, should I call the ladies in the house? At least let's hear our own female voice before we close, not only my own.
We should look at the next.
Okay, I think I'll have to call names, the ladies in the house. Do I know now? Adora is in the class. I hope you are there. Check. The person do I know? Modupe Oluwa, please speak to this, either a question or a contribution before we round up. Our time is fast spent.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, maintenance scheduling conflicts. Okay, so I think one of us has said that for this scenario one of us has said that it's a communication issue. So maybe from this scenario, I think it was an unforeseen situation. So in this case, it's just we still have to plead. Yeah, you have to weigh your options. If you decide to delay it, what implication will happen, right? And if you decide to wait, what can you save? So it's about using your discretion. So part of what I've learned to here is when you said something very key. Communication is not about what you say, it's also about what you don't say. Communication in this scenario is about weighing your options or using your discretion wisely. Look at the situation critically, and then you professionally map out what you're going to tell either the maintenance team or the stakeholders involved. So we can't do without communication in our profession, and I see that whether in written skills or in spoken words, body language, or addressing situations, communication is very, very key to ensuring a smooth facility management. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you've already closed the class for us. Thank you. So I just want to conclude using this scenario to say that as FM, if an event is successful, it's actually our success. And if our maintenance team are able to carry out their scheduled maintenance successfully, it is also our success. So all we need to do is to make sure that we find a common ground by being persuasive. Okay, since we know that both teams, maintenance team and the organizers are actually our success when they have success eventually. It's important that we find a common ground and resolve issues amicably in a persuasive way, and then we see that we eventually have success. Thank you very much for your attentiveness in today's class and for your contributions. For those that answered questions, for those that gave their contributions, thank you so much. And for those that were silent, thank you for listening. And I hope to see us some other time in the future, maybe at our graduation. All right, have a lovely night, everyone.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
lovely
much.
night.
All
Good
Bye.
right,
night.
bye.
Bye bye bye.
Bye. Okay.